The small survey ship Aria 9 drifted through the upper clouds of Orcs 4, a moon covered in silver-green forests and mist. Inside the ship, the crew prepared for landing. They had picked up a faint signal earlier that day. It was not human, but it sounded like a distress call. Sol sat near the window watching the fog swirl below. He was not a soldier or a scientist. He worked as a maintenance officer, fixing power grids and repairing the ship's systems when they broke down. His job was simple, and he liked it that way. He had joined the exploration fleet because he wanted to see what lay beyond the stars, not because he was brave or special. The pilot, Mara, looked back at him. "We are about to land. Stay ready in case we need to fix something again." Sol nodded and fastened his belt. He could feel the hum of the ship's engines as it slowed. The crew of 4 had been together for 6 months, exploring distant moons for possible settlement. Orcs 4 was supposed to be empty, yet the signal they found had changed everything. When the ship landed, the ground shook slightly. The air outside looked thick, filled with green mist that glowed faintly. Sol checked the readings. Oxygen levels were fine, but small traces of dust made visibility low. The team put on light breathing masks and stepped outside. The forest stretched in every direction. The trees were tall and thin with silver bark that caught the light. The soil was soft under their boots. Sol scanned the area with his wrist device. The signal came from the east, about a kilometer away. They followed it carefully through the mist. After half an hour of walking, the group reached a clearing. There, half buried under vines and dirt, lay a small alien craft. Its body was shaped like a drop of water cracked along one side. Gentle blue light flickered inside the wreck. "It's recent," said Mara, kneeling beside the broken hull. "Maybe just a few days old." Sol moved closer and touched the metal. It was warm. He could hear a soft hum coming from within. The others began to look for an entrance, but Sol's eyes caught something else. A small movement inside the wreck. He leaned down and saw through a narrow gap in the broken surface. Something small was moving there. It was glowing softly, almost like liquid crystal. Sol stepped back and called to the others. "There is someone inside." They worked together to open the damaged panel. When it finally came loose, they saw what was inside. A small being about the size of a child lay among fragments of glass-like material. Its skin looked smooth and transparent, filled with light that shifted in shades of blue and gold. The creature opened its eyes and looked up. There was fear there, but also curiosity. It tried to speak, but the sound that came out was a gentle hum that none of them could understand. Mara whispered, "It's alive." The air around them started to change. The mist turned thicker. The ship's scanner beeped in warning. Sol checked his wrist device and saw the numbers flashing red. The area was filling with toxic particles released from the broken engines of the alien craft. "We need to move," said Sol. "It is not safe here." The creature made a weak sound, almost like a cry. Sol looked down and saw that its body was trembling. It tried to stand but fell again. The others hesitated. None of them had seen anything like this before. They did not know if touching the being would harm it or them. But Sol did not think twice. He bent down and lifted the small creature gently into his arms. Its body was light and cool, and a faint glow covered his gloves. The child looked at him with wide, shining eyes. Sol could feel the small pulse of its life through the suit. He tried to speak softly. "You are going to be fine. We will take you somewhere safe." He carried the alien toward the open forest while Mara and the others cleared a path. The mist was thicker now. The air filters began to beep again. Sol felt a mild sting in his lungs even through the mask. The alien coughed weakly, its light dimming a little. "Almost there," he said, though he was not sure if it could understand him. When they reached the clearing where their ship waited, a sudden burst of heat came from behind. The alien craft made a deep rumble as something inside it overloaded. A wave of warm air rushed toward them. The others dropped to the ground. Sol turned his back to shield the small being he held. He crouched low, wrapping his arms and body around it as the air shimmered with heat. When the noise faded, the forest was quiet again. The Aria 9 stood unharmed nearby. Though its outer surface was covered in fine dust, Sol lifted his head and checked the creature. It was still breathing, but weakly. Its glow had faded to a faint silver. The pilot ran over. "We need to get inside the ship now." Sol nodded and carried the being aboard. The medical unit began scanning immediately. The display showed a strange energy pattern that the computer could not identify. It was alive, but its body was losing stability. Saul placed his own helmet near the child's face and opened the seal slightly, letting fresh oxygen flow toward it. The readings steadied. The crew watched in silence. They could not believe what they were seeing. Saul stayed beside the small alien the entire time, refusing to move even when Mara told him to rest. The being opened its eyes again and looked up at him. Its voice was soft, like a song carried by wind. He did not understand the words, but the tone was gentle. "It's speaking to you," said Mara quietly. Saul smiled faintly. "I think it knows I mean no harm." The others began recording the data, sending messages to command. Saul did not care about that. He was only focused on the being breathing slowly beside him. Hours passed. The sky outside turned dark as the twin suns of Orin 4 sank below the horizon. Saul did not leave the side of the small being. He brought water, adjusted the temperature, and kept the lights dim. The creature reached a hand toward him once, its fingers made of translucent crystal. When it touched his glove, he felt a small warmth spreading through his skin. The sensors on his suit showed a rise in bioenergy. Mara came in again. "Command wants us to wait for a recovery team before moving. They are sending a larger ship tomorrow." Saul nodded. "Then we wait." He looked at the alien child again. It had fallen asleep, light pulsing slowly across its body. He wondered what kind of world it had come from, what its people were like, and whether they were looking for it now. Outside, the forest glowed under the twin moons. The wind made soft sounds through the silver leaves. Saul sat in silence, feeling a strange calm. He thought about the moment he had lifted the small being out of the wreck. There had been no reason to do it except that he could not walk away. He remembered the fear in its eyes and the way it had held on to him. He felt a small pull in his heart that he could not explain. Maybe this was what it meant to explore new worlds, not to find minerals or land, but to find connection. That night, the forest around them seemed alive. Faint lights moved between the trees, almost like stars floating near the ground. Saul stood by the window and watched. He wondered if those lights were more of the same species, searching for their missing one. When dawn came, a soft chime echoed through the ship. The alien child woke and looked at him again. Its eyes shone brighter now, filled with quiet trust. It made another sound, this time longer and clearer. The ship's translator tried to form meaning from the tone. After a moment, a single word appeared on the screen. "Safe." Saul smiled and nodded. Yes, you are safe, but deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. He could not shake the feeling that this single act of kindness would lead him into something far greater than he could imagine. He had no idea that the being he had saved was not just any child, but the heir to a distant and powerful world. And far beyond the clouds of Orin the Four, a signal was already racing through the stars toward a radiant city of glass and light, carrying one message from the heart of the Queen herself. "Find the human who protected my child. Bring him to me." Saul woke to a soft golden light touching his face. The air felt different, warm and clean, almost sweet. He blinked and sat up slowly. The room around him was bright and shining, made of smooth walls that reflected colors like morning sunlight through a crystal window. He was not on the ship anymore. He tried to stand but felt a soft resistance like an invisible wall of air around him. When he moved his hand forward, the wall shimmered gently and disappeared. Saul took a deep breath. The air was easy to breathe, filled with a faint scent like blooming flowers. He looked around carefully. The room was round and open, with a high ceiling that glowed softly. The floor was smooth, shining like glass but warm under his feet. He still wore his exploration suit, though it felt lighter than before. In front of him stood 3 tall figures. They were made of the same kind of light and crystal as the child he had saved. Their bodies glowed with soft colors that shifted slowly, like the sky at sunset. Their eyes were bright, filled with curiosity and calm. One of them raised a slender hand and a gentle voice spoke. "You are safe, human traveler. Please do not be afraid." The words came not through sound but through a soft vibration in Saul's head. It was clear and calm, like a thought translated into his own language. Saul looked at them and nodded slowly. "Where am I?" "You are within the city of Elithra," said the figure. "This is the home of our people." Saul tried to remember what had happened. The last thing he recalled was sitting beside the alien child on the ship, watching it rest. Then there had been a bright light, a sudden pull and silence. "The child," he said quickly. "Is the child safe?" A door opened behind the glowing figures. Through it stepped the same small being he had saved. Its light was brighter now, steady and warm. It smiled when it saw him and hurried forward, holding a piece of shining fabric in its hands. Sol felt relief spread through him. "You look much better," he said softly. The child stopped near him and held out the fabric. The translator on Sol's suit turned the soft hum of the alien language into words. "You helped me. I wanted you to have this." Sol took the fabric gently. It was light and soft, woven with threads of silver light. He folded it carefully and smiled. "Thank you." The tall figure stepped forward again. "You are in the presence of the Queen's guards." "The Queen herself wishes to meet you," Sol hesitated. "The Queen?" "Yes, you have saved her child." "The heir of Elithra." The words filled the room with quiet. Sol looked down at the small being beside him who now stood proudly, light glowing brighter. He realized how important the moment had been on Orrin IV. 2 guards led him through a long hallway made of clear crystal. Outside, through the shining walls, he could see the city. It stretched across a wide valley surrounded by blue mountains. Towers of glass rose high into the air, connected by glowing bridges. Streams of light flowed between buildings like living rivers. The sky above was filled with gentle flying shapes that shimmered as they moved. The people of Elithra were everywhere, graceful and bright, their bodies glowing in different hues. As Sol walked through the hall, they turned to look at him with quiet wonder. Some placed their hands over their hearts, a gesture of respect. They entered a vast chamber filled with golden light. At the far end stood a tall figure brighter than all the others. Her form was radiant, her voice calm and deep like distant music. This was the Queen of Elithra. Sol bowed slightly, unsure what else to do. The Queen's light shifted into a soft silver tone and her voice reached him gently. "Human traveler, you have saved my child at the cost of your own safety. The people of Elithra owe you a debt that cannot be measured." Sol looked up. "I only did what anyone would do." The Queen stepped closer, her light softening. "Among your kind, perhaps, but to us such selfless action is rare. You risked your life without knowing who you were saving." Sol felt a little nervous under her gaze. He was just an ordinary man. He did not feel like someone who should stand in front of a queen. "I could not leave the child there." "It was the right thing to do." The Queen nodded. "Your words carry truth, yet there is more to this than simple courage." She raised her hand slightly and a soft glow surrounded Sol. "When you shielded the air with your own body, a bond was formed. The energy of your spirit touched the essence of the Illith. We call it resonance. It connects 2 souls through pure intent." Sol did not fully understand. "A bond? What does that mean?" "It means," said the Queen, "that you are now linked to my child through this resonance. It cannot be easily broken. It keeps the air calm and balanced. Without you, the connection fades." Sol looked at the small being again. It stood near him, watching quietly. Its light flickered slightly when he stepped back, as if reacting to his movement. "I did not mean to cause any trouble," Sol said softly. "I only wanted to help." The Queen smiled, a gentle expression that shone like sunlight on water. "You have caused no trouble, Sol, but the bond you created is precious. We must understand it. Until we do, I ask that you remain among us." Sol hesitated. "Remain here? For how long?" "For as long as the study requires. Time flows differently here than it does on your world. You will be treated as an honored guest." The guard stepped forward and guided Sol to a new chamber. It was larger than the first one, with windows that opened to a view of the shining city. A bed made of soft woven light stood near one wall. Everything was peaceful, but Sol felt uneasy. When the guards left, the child entered the room again. "Do you not like it here?" it asked. Sol smiled a little. "It is beautiful. I just did not expect to stay." The child sat beside him. "You will not be alone. I will show you our city." Over the next days, the child, whose name translated to Loom, took Sol through Elithra. They visited the gardens that floated above clear water and walked across bridges that shimmered like rainbows. The people greeted them with quiet joy. They seemed kind and curious, always smiling softly at the human among them. Sol began to learn about the Elith. They lived through harmony, not command. Their homes were grown from living crystal that responded to emotion. They spoke not with sound but through resonance, sending meaning directly through gentle waves of thought. He spent hours with Loom, who asked endless questions about Earth. "Are your cities made of light too? Do your people sing to each other through the air?" Sol laughed at the innocence of the questions. He told stories about blue oceans, green forests, and night skies filled with stars. Loom listened with wide eyes, the light within glowing brighter with every word. Each evening, the Queen sent messages through her attendants, thanking Sul for his patience and asking about his comfort. She promised he would return home soon, but the same words came every day. After a week, Sul noticed something strange. Every time he tried to contact the Area 9 or send a signal to Earth Command, the device in his suit stopped working. The Elith told him gently that communication between their world and human networks was unstable. He tried not to worry. The city was peaceful, and Loom was always with him, but he began to feel the quiet weight of being far from home. At night, he looked out at the glowing towers and wondered if the others from his crew were safe. One morning, while walking near the edge of a crystal bridge, Loom spoke softly. "Mother does not want you to leave yet. She says the bond keeps our people strong." Sul paused. "What do you mean?" "When you are near, everyone feels calmer. The lights in the city grow brighter. The healers say it is your energy. That is why Mother keeps you here." Sul looked toward the palace, shining at the center of the city. The Queen's kindness had never felt false, but he began to understand the reason behind it. He was not just a guest. He was part of something they did not want to lose. He knelt beside Loom and placed a hand over the small, glowing heart. "You do not need me to shine. You already have that light inside you." Loom looked down, unsure how to answer. The glow dimmed slightly. Sul smiled and said, "I will stay as long as I must, but one day I must go home." As he spoke, a gentle wind moved across the bridge, carrying faint music from the city below. The glass towers shimmered like morning dew. Sul looked at them and felt a quiet promise forming in his heart. He would not leave the Elith behind without understanding their world, but he would not forget who he was either. Far away, in the heart of the palace, the Queen watched from a high chamber. Her expression was thoughtful. She could feel the strength of the human bond flowing through her city. It was calm and warm, unlike anything she had known. Yet she knew that someday Sul would want his freedom. She only hoped she would find the courage to give it to him. The light of Elithra glowed brighter that evening, as if the entire city were breathing in harmony with a single human heart. Days turned into weeks in Elithra, and Sul began to understand the rhythm of the city. Every surface seemed alive with light. Every wall, bridge, and tower glowed softly in response to the feelings of the people. The Elith believed that emotion was energy, and their world shaped itself around that energy. Sul was treated with honor. Wherever he went, people bowed slightly or touched their glowing hands to their hearts. They called him the Protector, and sang gentle songs that carried through the air like warm wind. The Queen gave him a chamber in the upper gardens of the palace. It was a peaceful place with clear pools, floating lights, and quiet paths that curved between crystal trees. Yet peace did not always mean freedom. Every morning, an attendant named Varel visited Sul with a polite smile. Varel carried small crystal tablets filled with shining letters that Sul could not read. "The scholars will join you soon," Varel would say. "They wish to study the resonance between you and the air." Sul always nodded. The Elith were kind, and their questions were gentle, but he felt like a bird inside a beautiful cage. The city was open, yet he was never allowed near the skyports where ships departed. Whenever he asked about returning home, Varel would give the same calm answer. "Not yet. The Queen believes it would be unsafe for both worlds until we understand your link." Sul tried to hide his worry, especially from Loom. The child was growing stronger every day, glowing brighter, learning new words in human language. Together they explored the gardens where flowers of light bloomed in midair. Loom loved to show him the wonders of Elithra. "These flowers sing when touched," the child said one morning. "They grow from pure emotion." Sul reached out and brushed his fingers across the petals. They made a soft sound like a bell. "They sound like laughter," he said. Loom smiled. "They feel your kindness." Sul smiled back, but inside he wondered if the flowers could also feel his restlessness. Every night when the twin moons of Elithra rose, he stood by his window and looked at the stars, trying to find the faint light of his homeworld. One evening, during a quiet meal in the garden, the Queen came to visit. Her light filled the space with calm gold. Loom bowed and stepped aside, allowing Sul and the Queen to speak alone. "I trust you are comfortable here," she said gently. "I am," Sul replied. "Your people have been kind, but I have not received any messages from my crew. I would like to know if they are safe." The Queen's expression softened. Your crew returned safely to your home station. We sent them a message explaining that you remain here as our honored guest. Sol felt relief at first, then confusion. You told them I am staying here? For how long? Until we understand the bond, the Queen said quietly. You must see that this is important to both our kinds. Your presence has changed our city. The resonance that flows through you and the air is bringing balance to Elithra. Even the outer towers shine brighter now. I am glad, Sul said carefully, but I am still human. I belong to my world. The Queen looked at him for a long time. You speak with honesty. That is why my child trusts you. But your human heart carries something powerful, something we have not known before. The scholars call it will. It may be the reason your bond is so strong. She paused, then added, We cannot risk losing it yet. Her words were soft, but Sul understood the meaning behind them. The kindness of his hosts had become quiet control. When the Queen left, Loom came closer. Mother worries too much, the child said. She thinks if you leave, the light will fade. Sol knelt beside Loom and smiled. I think your light comes from inside you, not from me. Loom touched his hand. Then help me show her. From that day, Sol and Loom began spending more time among the people. They walked through the lower districts, where workers shaped crystal into new homes and towers. They visited the learning halls where young Elith studied the harmony of sound and energy. Loom introduced Sol to everyone, calling him the protector who shares his heart. At first, the people watched with awe, but soon they began to laugh and talk freely with him. Sol helped them repair a damaged light fountain one morning, using the tools he had brought from his suit. When the fountain glowed again, the Elith around him cheered and sang his name. That night, for the first time, Sol felt the city respond not to fear or command, but to joy. The towers glowed with a soft golden hue. The air itself seemed to hum with life. News of this spread quickly. The Queen's advisors noticed the change and spoke in quiet voices. The human brings new energy, one said. He teaches through presence, not through power. The Queen listened but said nothing. She could feel the same change within her own heart. The people were happier, the city brighter, yet she could not escape a quiet worry. What if the human left and the balance fell again? Meanwhile, Sol continued to learn about the Elith way of life. They did not have laws like humans did. Their society worked through shared emotion and harmony. When one person felt sadness, others would feel it too, and they would gather to comfort the one who suffered. It was a peaceful world built on empathy. Sol often thought how fragile it seemed. If one emotion could shape their world, what would happen if fear or anger ever took root? One afternoon, Loom asked him a question that stayed with him. Why did you protect me when you did not know who I was? Sol smiled softly. Because you were in danger and needed help. I did not need to know anything else. Loom thought for a while, then said, That is what makes you different. You act from feeling, not from law. My people act from harmony, but you act from heart. That evening, Sol could not sleep. The air around his chamber glowed faintly blue, reflecting his thoughts. He remembered the Queen's words about the bond and wondered if it was right to stay. He wanted to go home, yet leaving might harm Lumi or upset the city's balance. He felt caught between two worlds. The next morning, the scholars came again. They carried small devices that shimmered with colored light. They asked Sul to stand in the center of the chamber while they measured the energy between him and Loom. The air around them vibrated gently. Lines of light moved across the walls like ripples in water. One of the scholars smiled. The resonance grows stronger each day. The child's balance is perfect. Sul tried to understand the readings, but all he saw were waves of color. When the test ended, Loom looked tired, so Sul helped the child sit down. The scholars bowed and left quietly. As the door closed, Loom whispered, They do not study only me. They study you too, Sol nodded. I know. Do you feel trapped? Loom asked. He took a deep breath. Sometimes. But I also feel that I am meant to learn something here. That night, Sul decided to explore beyond the palace gardens. He walked through the quiet streets where the crystal towers reflected the moonlight. The city was peaceful, yet he noticed something new. The colors of the light seemed to follow him. Wherever he went, the towers glowed a little warmer. The Elith he passed bowed with gentle smiles, whispering blessings in their language. He stopped near a wide pool where the water shone like glass. Loom appeared beside him, walking silently. Together they looked at the reflection of the city. It is beautiful, Sul said. It is more beautiful because you are here, Loom replied. Before you came, we lived in harmony, but it was quiet and still. Now the light moves. It feels alive. Sol looked at the small being beside him. Harmony is important, but life needs change too. The child nodded. That is what Mother does not see yet. The next day, the queen summoned Sol to the throne chamber again. She studied him with a calm but thoughtful expression. You have done much for my people, she said. They have learned from your heart. Yet I feel their balance shifting too quickly. The resonance grows beyond what I can control. I have only shared what I know, Sol replied. Kindness, trust, and courage do not belong to one world. The queen looked down at her hands. You speak truth, but truth can be dangerous when it changes what has always been still. Sol bowed his head. If I have caused trouble, I am sorry. You have caused awakening, she said softly. And awakening brings both light and uncertainty. When Sol left the chamber, he understood something new. The queen was not cruel, but she was afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of what new ideas might bring. That night he stood again by the window of his chamber, watching the city lights. The towers glowed in colors that danced like living fire. Somewhere in the distance, Loom was singing a soft song of gratitude. Sol listened, and the air filled with warmth. He still could not leave, but the cage no longer felt as strong as before. The people of Elithra were beginning to see that freedom was not a threat, but a kind of light. And that light had come from a single act of human compassion. Far above the shining city, among the stars, Sol's home world waited unseen. He wondered if the bond that tied him to Loom might one day become a bridge between their worlds. The city of Elithra had changed since Sol arrived. Light moved through the streets in waves, glowing brighter in places where laughter, curiosity, and courage flowed freely. The citizens had always known harmony, yet Sol's presence stirred something new. His actions, small yet steady, echoed through the city in ways the queen could feel but could not fully control. Sol woke one morning to the soft hum of the city. Sunlight, golden and warm, passed through the transparent towers, filling his chamber with color. Loom was already awake, glowing softly as the child practiced creating small patterns of light in the air. Good morning, Sol said quietly, smiling. Good morning, Sol, Loom replied, beaming. I practiced making the patterns like you showed me yesterday. Sol knelt to look at the child's small hands. Tiny streams of glowing energy danced and intertwined above Loom's palms. You are improving very fast. Soon you will make designs the elders have never seen before. The child laughed, a soft sound that resonated like wind chimes. Will they like them? They will, Sol said. Because they will be made with heart, not just skill. As the morning passed, the two of them walked through the city. Sol observed the people carefully. They moved gracefully, their steps almost floating above the crystal streets. Some worked in the gardens, guiding streams of light to grow flowers and trees in unusual shapes. Others were in the learning halls, drawing patterns in the air that pulsed with meaning. Sol had watched many things, yet he noticed now how subtly his presence influenced the city. Wherever he and Loom walked, colors brightened and the energy seemed more vibrant. They reached a wide plaza where citizens gathered. Loom pointed to a small group of Elith trying to solve a delicate problem with a bridge of energy. The bridge had grown unstable, threatening to collapse under its own light. Sol observed silently for a moment. Then he stepped forward and offered a gentle idea, guiding their movements in a way that required no force, only calm direction. The bridge steadied immediately. A wave of light rippled through the plaza as the people smiled and bowed to Sol. Loom's glow brightened with pride. You did it, the child exclaimed. Sol smiled faintly. I only helped them see the way. The work is theirs. Even the queen, who had observed the scene from a balcony above, was impressed. The human had changed the way Elith viewed themselves. His courage and kindness were teaching them a lesson that no law or ritual could enforce. That evening, Sol and Loom returned to the upper gardens. The air was filled with the scent of floating flowers, and the pools reflected the twin moons above. Sol sat quietly thinking about what he had seen that day. He realized something important. Humanity was not about strength or power. It was about the choices one made every moment, the courage to act even when the outcome was uncertain, and the kindness that did not demand reward. Loom noticed his thoughtful expression. Are you thinking about Earth? Sol nodded. Yes. I wonder what people there would think if they could see Elithra. They would be amazed. And maybe they could learn something from your world too. The child tilted the head slightly, a gesture that always made Sewell smile. Do you miss it? I do, he admitted. But I also know I'm where I need to be right now. The next morning, the Queen called Saul to her chamber again. She did not look as radiant as before. Her light seemed cooler, tinged with concern. You have taught my people much, she said. The city thrives because of your presence. Yet I fear that the change may grow beyond what I can guide. Saul listened carefully. You do not need to control every change, he said. Sometimes letting things grow naturally creates stronger bonds than trying to keep them perfect. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Your perspective is unusual for a human. You speak with humility, yet your actions are strong. Perhaps this is why the resonance with my child is so potent. Saul thought of Loom, of the gentle power in the child's glow, and of how their bond had quietly shifted the balance of Elithra. Strength is not always visible, he said. It can be quiet and still, but it can guide others without forcing them. The Queen nodded slowly. I see now. Your human ways carry lessons my people need to learn. I have underestimated the power of simple courage and care. After leaving the Queen, Saul returned to the gardens where Loom was waiting. Together they visited the learning halls again. The young Elith gathered around them eagerly, curious to see the human who had sparked so much change. Saul taught them small lessons about observation, patience, and careful decision-making. He encouraged them to try new ideas even if they seemed impossible at first. One young Elith asked him, Why do you help us even when it is not necessary? Saul smiled softly. Because I can. Because helping is its own reward. The child's eyes glowed brighter, reflecting a new understanding. We can learn from this, the young Elith said. Not only what you do, but why you do it. Saul nodded. Exactly. Every action has meaning. Even small kindnesses can echo far beyond what you see. As days passed, the city of Elithra began to change even more. The colors of the towers shifted to warmer hues. The air hummed with a gentle resonance, and the flowers in the gardens grew taller and more vivid. Saul observed quietly, noticing how the influence of human empathy and courage moved through the people. Loom grew stronger as well. The child could now shape streams of light into intricate forms without hesitation. More importantly, Loom began sharing small acts of care with other children in Elithra, teaching them how to help one another. Saul watched with pride, understanding that the lessons he had brought from Earth were spreading through the city quietly but surely. The Queen noticed the changes more each day. She watched from her balcony as Elith worked and played, laughter mingling with the light of the city. The bond between Sewell and Loom created something new, something Elithra had never experienced before. It was not just energy or resonance, it was the echo of humanity. Yet the Queen could feel a tension beneath the beauty. She worried that the human's presence might eventually lead to desires that she could not satisfy. Elithra had always relied on harmony and calm, but Sewell brought unpredictability, courage, and independent thought. One evening, she summoned Sewell to her chamber again. Her expression was calm, yet there was weight in her voice. You have awakened something important in my people, she said. They see that life can be shaped not only by harmony but by choice. This is a gift and a challenge. We are grateful, yet we cannot control what you have sparked. Sewell understood her meaning. I cannot be everything to your world, he said. I only do what I can in each moment. That is all anyone can do. The Queen looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. You are wise beyond your years. Your heart guides you more than your mind, and that is rare. I have learned much from your presence. After leaving the chamber, Sewell returned to the gardens. Loom was waiting for him near a pool that reflected the twin moons. The child smiled shyly, holding a small glowing orb. This is for you, Loom said. It is made from the light of our city. It will remind you of your time here. Sewell took the orb gently. It pulsed softly in his hands, warm and alive. Thank you, he said. I will keep it always. The child tilted the head. Will you stay? Saul looked down at Loom's bright eyes. As long as I am needed, he said. But one day I must return to my world. Loom nodded, though the glow dimmed slightly. Sewell realized that leaving would not only affect the child but the entire city. Elithra had begun to rely on the quiet strength he offered, and he had grown attached as well. The next morning, Saul visited the central plaza with Loom. Citizens gathered to see them, and the air was alive with energy. Saul encouraged them to share their light and ideas freely, to experiment without fear. He taught them to observe, to listen, and to act with intention. As the day went on, Sewell noticed a remarkable pattern. The citizens, inspired by human courage and initiative, began teaching one another new skills. They no longer waited for the Queen to direct them in every detail. Instead, they acted with care and thoughtfulness, guided by lessons they had learned from Sewell. For the first time, Elithra felt truly alive. The city was no longer merely a reflection of harmony. It had become a living, breathing place shaped by empathy, courage, and independent action. Sewell understood that this was the gift of humanity, the ability to inspire, to protect, and to guide without domination. That night, as he rested in his chamber, Sewell looked out over the city. Loom slept nearby, light glowing softly with each breath. The towers reflected the stars above, each one twinkling with gentle life. Elithra had grown because of the quiet echo of one human heart, and far away in the palace the Queen watched the city with a mixture of awe and humility. She had learned that strength could come from kindness, that leadership could be guided by care, and that the echo of humanity was a force that even the brightest lights could not ignore. The city of Elithra shone brighter than ever, its towers reflecting the twin moons with soft golden light. The air hummed gently with life, and the streams of energy that flowed through the streets pulsed rhythmically with the feelings of the citizens. Sewell had grown comfortable here, yet the quiet pull of earth lingered in his heart. He missed the open skies, the blue oceans, and the stars beyond the city lights. That morning, Loom woke him with a gentle nudge. The child's glow was soft but steady, reflecting the calm excitement in their shared hearts. "Sewell," Loom said, "today Mother wishes to speak with you again." Sewell nodded, adjusting his suit and taking a deep breath. He followed Loom through the crystal corridors of the palace, noticing how the city responded to their movement. Towers shimmered more brightly, the energy around them pulsing with warmth. Even the citizens they passed smiled and bowed, a quiet acknowledgement of his presence. The Queen awaited them in the central chamber, her form radiant as always. Yet today her glow carried a mixture of curiosity and something more profound: contemplation. She gestured for Sewell and Loom to approach. "You have done much for Elithra," she began. "The city thrives in ways I could not have imagined. Your courage, your kindness, and your quiet determination have taught lessons that words alone could never convey. The bond you formed with Loom has changed everything." Sewell listened carefully, keeping his gaze steady. "I only did what I could," he said. "I could not let the child be in danger." "That is all," the Queen nodded. "And yet your actions have done more than protect. They have inspired. The citizens of Elithra are discovering new ways to act, to learn, and to grow. Your presence has become a source of guidance." Sewell felt a mixture of pride and humility. "I am glad my presence can help," he said softly. "But I also belong to another world. I must return to Earth someday." The Queen's glow dimmed slightly, reflecting the weight of her concern. "I understand your desire. I have watched as you and Loom have shared knowledge, kindness, and courage. I have come to see that your freedom is as important as the light you bring. Perhaps it is time for you to choose your path." Sewell's heart lifted at her words. He had hoped for this moment, but had not dared to believe it could come so soon. He looked at Loom, whose glow had brightened in anticipation. The child's small hand reached for his, the touch filled with trust and affection. "I will not forget you," Loom whispered, "nor the lessons you have taught me. You will carry them always," Sewell replied. "And I will carry the memory of this city of your courage and your light." The Queen stepped closer. "Before you leave, there is one gift I wish to give you. It is not wealth or jewels, for such things hold little value beyond a moment. It is something far greater, a token of the bond you share with Loom, a reminder of the echo of humanity you have brought to Elithra." She extended her hand, and a small crystal orb floated gently toward Sewell. Its surface shimmered with colors that shifted and danced, reflecting the light of the room and the energy of the city itself. As Sewell held it, he felt warmth spread through him, a connection to Elithra that would remain no matter where he went. "It is a piece of our city's heart," the Queen said. "It will shine whenever you call upon the memories, lessons, or courage you have found here." Sewell bowed his head in gratitude. "I will treasure it always." Loom stepped forward, their light brushing softly against Sewell's arm. "Promise me, Sewell," the child said. "You will return to your world and share the courage and kindness you carry. Your heart can reach far beyond these walls, I promise," Sewell said firmly. "I will not forget what I have learned here." and I will carry Elithra in my heart wherever I go." The queen watched silently, then spoke again. "Your bond with Loom will remain. Even across the vastness of space, your connection can never be broken. The city will remember you, and the air will grow stronger with the courage you have given." Saul knelt to look into Loom's glowing eyes. "And you will shine even brighter no matter what comes." The child smiled, a gentle warmth flowing from the glow. "I will try." The attendants prepared the launch chamber for Saul's journey back to Earth. The ship gleamed softly, its hull reflecting the light of Elithra, as though the city itself wished to send him safely home. Saul stepped aboard, carrying the crystal orb carefully in his hands. Loom followed him to the entrance and pressed a small hand against the glass wall of the chamber. As the engines hummed, Saul waved. "Goodbye, Loom. Be brave and kind always." The child's glow pulsed softly. "Goodbye, Saul. Thank you for everything." With a gentle lift, the ship rose from the platform, moving smoothly through the city. The light of Elithra reflected off the crystal streets below, and the citizens gathered to watch the human who had brought new courage and hope to their lives. Saul felt the energy of the city move through him as the ship ascended into the atmosphere. Once in orbit, he looked down at the shining world below. The palace, the gardens, and the towers glowed like stars scattered across the surface. He held the crystal orb in his hands and watched it shimmer, a reminder of the lessons, the laughter, and the courage he had shared. The city below remained alive and vibrant. The lessons of empathy, bravery, and care had taken root among the Elith. Saul could sense their growth, a quiet reflection of the human spirit he had brought to them. It was not his strength that had mattered, but his willingness to act with heart. As the ship traveled toward Earth, Saul thought of his crew, of the people he had left behind, and of the world waiting for him. He knew that the experience in Elithra had changed him. He had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. He had learned that kindness could ripple far beyond what one could see. Days later, the ship approached Earth. The familiar blue oceans and green continents came into view. Saul felt a sense of relief and anticipation, yet a part of him remained connected to Elithra, to the city of light and the child whose courage and curiosity had mirrored his own. When the ship landed, Saul was greeted by his fellow crew members. They smiled and embraced him, grateful for his safe return. Yet Saul carried something more than stories of survival. He carried a gift of understanding, a deeper sense of what it meant to act with courage, compassion, and heart. He placed the crystal orb carefully in a small container on the ship. Its soft glow reminded him constantly of Elithra, of the city of light, and of the bond that would remain unbroken. Back on Earth, Saul spoke to his superiors, sharing his experiences without exaggeration, focusing on the lessons of courage, empathy, and connection. The story of the alien child in the city of Elithra inspired everyone who heard it. It was not a story of conquest or power, but of care, understanding, and the quiet influence of one human heart. Weeks passed, yet Saul returned often in his mind to Elithra. He thought of Loom learning and growing, of the city pulsing with life and light. He knew that the bond they shared would endure, a bridge between two worlds built not by force, but by the courage to act with kindness and the willingness to protect without reward. One evening, as the sun set over Earth, Saul held the crystal orb and smiled. He could feel the faint pulse of Elithra through it, a reminder that the lessons he had given were growing and spreading. Loom's light, the city's energy, and the echo of humanity were all connected, a living testament to the power of simple choices made with heart. Saul understood now that the queen had been right to hold him for a time, and also right to release him when the moment came. The city of Elithra would continue to thrive, and he would return to Earth, carrying the lessons of courage, compassion, and the quiet strength that comes from acting with integrity. As night fell, he looked up at the stars. Somewhere far beyond, in the glowing city of Elithra, Loom watched the same sky. Their bond, unbroken by distance, would continue to inspire and guide. Saul smiled, knowing that true strength was not in power, but in the willingness to protect, to care, and to share light wherever one could. And so, the human who had once shielded a small alien child with his own body returned to his world. Yet the echo of his courage and compassion lived on, shining in the city of Elithra, and in the hearts of everyone who had witnessed the quiet power of humanity. The crystal orb pulsed gently in his hands, a promise of connection, of growth, and of hope. Saul knew that no matter how far he traveled, the lessons of Elithra would remain with him. He had protected a life and inspired a world, and that legacy, quiet yet powerful, would continue across the stars.